morning, everyone. My name is Amit Khandelwal. I would like to welcome you on behalf of ProTutor. I'm the technical advisor to ProTutor. First, wish you all a very happy Diwali. Next slide, please. So before we begin with the webinar, let me give more context about ProTutor, what ProTutor is all about, and who are the people who are responsible for creating this product. ProTutor was founded by Ms. Khyati Dutt in Feb 2020. It is a platform to connect students and tutors. So the idea is you can pick a dedicated tutor for your child and create a personalized learning schedule. You can use any medium. You can either choose to use Zoom, Google Meet, or Google Classroom, and you'll be able to connect with professional teachers across the globe. Think of it as Uber for education. Next slide, please. So here's a brief history about the founder. The founder is based out of US. She's currently a construction manager at one of the firms in New York, and ProTutor is her brainchild. She started ProTutor because she wasn't able to find tutors that fit her specific needs. She was looking for somebody who's flexible, timings weren't really matching, and affordability was also a big factor. That was the reason why she created ProTutor. Next slide, please. Gaurav Patel is the head of engineering. He has more than 17 years of experience working at different organizations. He's also worked in different technology stacks, specifically Java, Python, blockchain, so on and so forth. And he is setting up the entire infrastructure for ProTutor. Next slide, please. Amod Gupta is the head of business development and operations. He has more than 10 years of experience in different industries. The last 10 years, he's focused specifically on education industry, wherein he's played different roles at different levels in management and sort of strategic functions. He's also very passionate about counseling students, and he has guided more than 30 students to make better and informed career choices. Smith Patel has about 1 year of experience in software. He's a recent grad, a very talented graduate who was helping Karang to build the technology infrastructure using things like React, Angular, Java, and so forth. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Alex, who's today's host for the webinar, and I will let Alex go ahead and introduce himself. Alex, you want to run with this?
Oh, sure. So, hi. So, my name is Alex Barazani. I'm currently attending Montclair State University. I have a degree in education and disabilities. So today, my webinar will be on biology, and let's get started. So we're going to go over 3 main parts of biology today. That's evolution, kingdoms of life, and the ecosystem. So what is biology? So biology is made up of 2 parts. So bio, meaning life, and logi, meaning study of. So biology is the study of living organisms. So part 1, what is evolution? Evolution is a process in which modern organisms have descended from ancient organisms over time. So it's how things over time develop, mutate to survive in their ecosystem. So Charles Darwin, who's the current father of evolution, has this quote, "A man who dares to waste 1 hour of time has not discovered the value of life." So basically he's saying make the most of life. So there are 2 main concepts in evolution. There's natural selection and adaptation. Natural selection is a mechanism or the cause of evolution, so it's the reason that evolution happens. Adaptation is what happens through evolution, so it's the trait that improves an organism's abilities to survive. So the better it can survive, the more adaptation, and it goes like that. So here we have, so here I have a diagram with an example. So you can see on the right-hand side, you'll see a tall tree. So the more likely animal to survive, oops, I'm sick, would be the one who can reach the tree and get the most food. If it doesn't have access to food, it won't be able to eat, it won't survive. So in each generation, more giraffes will be born with more food supply. In each generation, some giraffes will inherit longer necks and some with shorter necks. The giraffes will all compete for the same food source. Giraffes with longer necks will be able to obtain more food and be more likely to survive and reproduce. As a result, the generations will have an increased number of long necks. So over time, more and more giraffes with long necks will survive. Those without won't. They won't be able to reproduce, and only those with long necks will continue. So again, so here the adaptation, so that was natural selection, the process of natural selection. So here we have the adaptation, which is that their necks will get longer. So those giraffes with longer necks will get more food, be better able to reproduce, passing on those long neck genes to their offspring over time. So that's natural selection, and this is adaptation. So what are the kingdoms of life? So there are 5 kingdoms of life. That's Monera, protists, fungi, plants, and animal. So Monera are one-cell organisms that have no cell membrane. A protist is a one-cell organism that has a cell membrane, also known as a heterotroph. It's much more structurally complex than Monera. Then we have fungi, which are many-celled organisms that we once thought were related to plants, but actually now their own kingdom. And then we have plants, which are many-celled organisms. There's vascular and non-vascular plants. A moss, for example, would be a non-vascular plant, and a tree or a flower would be a vascular plant. And then you have animals, which are many-celled organisms that are in 2 categories, vertebrates and invertebrates. So today we're going to focus on the animal kingdom. So in the animal kingdom, as previously mentioned, there are 2 main subsections. There's vertebrates and invertebrates. Vertebrates are animals that have a backbone, also known as a spine in humans. Invertebrates are animals that have no backbone or spine. So examples of vertebrates would be amphibians, mammals, reptiles, fish, and birds. And invertebrates are echinoderms, flatworms, insects, arachnids, things like that. So within each category, we have different examples. So we have birds, which are animals that, while not actually mammals, do have warm blood and are related to the other vertebrates in the family. But then if we look at the invertebrate section, we can see that insects are arthropods, which are not actually closely related to the echinoderms, but they stem from the same branch. So part 3, what is an ecosystem? So an ecosystem is a biological community of interacting organisms in the physical environment. So for example, in this image, you can see a forest with trees and undergrowth. So this whole forest is the ecosystem, and the things living in it working together are what make it the ecosystem. So you can see you have a bird, fish, you can see lobster underneath, deer, bear, and they all interact with each other. So the carnivore will eat the herbivore will eat the plant, they all drink water, they all work together as part of an ecosystem. So the ecosystem is divided into 2 major parts, abiotic and biotic. So the biotic part of the ecosystem, like we spoke about before, bio means life. So we have animals, plants, bacteria, also fungi, and all other living organisms. Abiotic is a non-biotic part of the ecosystem. Non-living part of an ecosystem. So air, water, sunlight, the temperature, the humidity, all the things that are in the actual life that are part of the ecosystem. So what are the abiotic elements of a rainforest? So the abiotic elements of a rainforest would be that it's hot and humid, that it has a lot of sunlight, and that it rains a lot and there's lots of water. Biotic elements of rainforests would be animals and insects, plants and fungi. And so how do changes in ecosystem affect its inhabitants? So here we have Charlie. Charlie is a proboscis monkey and he lives in a rainforest. As I spoke about before, his adaptations, and he's adapted to live in warm and humid environments. He eats insects and fruit, and he drinks water. And here's Charlie eating plants native to the rainforest he lives in. The plants require a lot of sunlight and water to grow. And as we can see, Charlie's adaptation in this image, if you look, so he has this large nose that hangs over his food, and these specific leaves are oval shaped. And so it's adapted to fit each other. So that's what happens over time through the process of evolution. So what happens if there's a lot of water in his environment? Does anyone right now have any guess as to what might happen if there's no water in his environment? So I'll give an example. So very good. So he might die because there's no water. Plants won't be able to grow, and if plants won't grow, he won't be able to live. I said, so yeah, so the plants won't grow. So you can see around him, there's no plants, no water. And if the plants don't grow, what happens to Charlie? And this attendee said very accurately that Charlie might die. So just one change can upset an entire ecosystem. So what does this mean? It means everything in our ecosystem is balanced, and everything can survive together. So one small change can have devastating effects. Can anyone think of another ecosystem for me? So we did rainforest. Can anyone think of another kind of ecosystem? So let me give an example. So another example of an ecosystem might be our own homes. It's where we live. So whether you live with parents, children, you might have dogs, cats, or other pets. So those are all parts of your ecosystem. Your room where you sleep, it might have different temperature than the rest of the house, right? So it might be colder or warmer. And everything in your house, your apartment, your building, that's your ecosystem. And so can anyone tell me what environment they're in now? Whether it's their house, their home, what country, what area? Does anyone want to tell me what environment you might be in? All right, so I'll give an example of my environment. So right now in my environment, it's relatively cool in here. I have my cat with me. And so an example, I also have many ants, unfortunately. I have many ants right now. And these are examples of parts of my ecosystem that interact together. So I feed my cat, and when I feed my cat, ants find food. So she has food, the ants come and find them, the ants come take the food, and now they're part of my ecosystem. And I brought her in as part of my ecosystem. The temperature I survive in is part of my ecosystem, how I live. So these are all parts of our personal ecosystems. And so what might happen if there's a change in my ecosystem? Oh, sorry, my mistake. So I'll just go back for a second. So what might happen if there's a change in my ecosystem? So if my cat were to die or to leave, then other things around my ecosystem might change. So for example, because the ants find their way into my house through my cat's food, there might no longer be ants in my house if I don't have my cat. So that would be a change in my ecosystem that changes from one thing. So does anyone have anything living with them other than your family? Whether it's a pet, maybe something you don't want like I have, like ants or maybe mice. Plants, very good. So plants are also part of your ecosystem that you take care of, right? So something that might happen, so plants, as we talked about earlier, are living organisms, and they need air and water. So if you have your window open, your plants will do very well. If you close your window, then you're changing your ecosystem so there's less sunlight. And when you make that change to your ecosystem, your plants might not survive. So that's a change that happens in your ecosystem where you live that you have an effect on. So I kind of answered this, but what might happen if those things were no longer there? Does anyone else want to give an example of something that might happen if there's a change in their ecosystem? So I'll come up with another example. So let's say that I live somewhere that's very, very cold, and that's true. So they might not survive if there's a change in my ecosystem. So if I live somewhere very, very cold, and I bring plants with me. plants that are adapted to live in more warm and humid climates, like we talked about earlier, then those plants might not be able to survive. So biology is the study of life, and it's how we study everything that interacts around us. So all life, whether it's plants, animals, whether it's protists, monera, fungi, anything that's living is part of biology and the study of life. And so I'd like to thank Amit and the ProTutor team for having me. And if there are any questions that anyone has, I'd love to hear them and try and answer them.
Thanks, Alex, for that insightful webinar on biology. Right, so with that, we come to an end for the webinar. If you have any questions or if you would like to connect with Alex, please feel free to go to the website protutor.io. You'll be able to find Alex over there. And you can directly coordinate with him using the website. Uh, Alex is covering different subjects, so you can book him online directly using on the platform itself. And hopefully your child will be able to connect with Alex. Thanks,
I look
everyone.
forward to hearing from anyone there.
Bye.